Um, it's really nice to be here. Um, it just reminds me of a few years back. Um, I went to a conference, and they asked me to pick some chits, and there were many things there, and they said you can pick these things. So I thought it was something where if I picked this, I would know the answers of this. So I picked those questions and I kept them with me. It so happened that they asked me to talk about it, and I was supposed to be the expert. This was a traffic conference where I was one of the group who was supposed to select, and I picked the questions which I wanted answers for, and they asked me to actually be the expert and answer them. So this is some kind of a situation like this. I think I'm here actually. I'm not at all qualified to be here, although Rekhi sir calls me a doctor. I don't think I'm real doctor. So I think they're real people who are actually here, who have actually studied this, have mastered it. And for me, I think to be here in this space, to get the knowledge, I think is very critical. For me, Rekhi sir has been such a great influence on my life. It's great that his vision to make happiness, the science of happiness, the rhythm of happiness, the institute of happiness. I think these are all beautiful things which I think he's really put his heart into, and I'm glad and happy that he's done it. Because I think some of us in this journey, and it's been my own journey, have been pushing. You push, you don't push really for happiness. You push for accomplishment, you push for pride, and somewhere in the journey happiness also loses its value. You're not able to enjoy the accomplishments, enjoy what you've done, and you actually end up not being happy. And I've seen many achievers not being happy, and I think that's something which is very critical, because somehow, as much as there is a rhythm to happiness, I would think that there's a rhythm to life, and all of us don't go up all the time in life. As much as people recognize me with my success as a player, as a coach, I see a lot more failure every day than anybody would see in a normal life, because I see kids failing. Because in education, I think you're all the lucky ones in some sense, because 95% of you will pass and go through. And in sport, it's the other way around. It's 95% of them will fail. So it's almost like you're living with failure day in and day out. And just that the spotlight is on the people who are successful. The spotlight is on your own life of success. So the failure gets camouflaged. So till the time you don't look at those spots, you're living a very superficial life. And the day you look into those spots, then you can't rest, because there's so much of failure around, there's so much of depression around, that the little bit of happiness cannot camouflage the failure and the depression which is around. Because when a tournament happens, people see the one winner, but there are many of them who've actually lost. And we don't even come to hear of them, but their stories are sidelined. I think this fundamental difference between sport and education makes it even more critical in sport to address this issue about happiness. Because in sport, you could be a very successful athlete and retire at 30. You still have 60 to 70 years of life left with you. So you cannot have the residue of depression, of failure, carry forward for the rest of your life as a foundation. So I think it's very important that we need to change that then and there, so that the foundation is of character, of ethics and values, of happiness, and the lessons which they learn about sport actually bring you to make you better human beings and more successful human beings rather than bring them down. So this is something we actually live through in life. The other thing which I do believe is very important is guilt. I think the lack of guilt is something, and I would only go as far as peace, because the higher dimension of happiness, uh, I may not be actually uh, be able to talk as much. My happiest moments have been when I've been on court. The happiest moments have been when my students have beaten me when I play. The happiest moments are when my students outthink me on the court. And it's strange that a very aspect of competitive player, which is winning, somewhere the day you lose, you're happy. And somehow those things are very difficult to define for me. But I think the badminton court for me is a life in a compact form, and it gives me a great amount of happiness. And and these are times when you forget about what is there in the world, and you are that child. And so these are things in sport. I think it's very important as much as music is. These songs which were the invocation today, Archie and sung, they were divine. I just could close my eyes, and I was just checking if my phone had such a beautiful audio system that it could pick up the voice so clearly. I think it was so divine. So I think music, meditation, gives me a lot of peace. I can't say about happiness in that same sense. Probably it would be later. But I think for me, satisfaction is a very important thing. I think people want, aspire to be 100, to be number one. But I think life as a rhythm doesn't make you number one always. I think to come back and settle down at 70 or 80 and then enjoy life from there and see people who are achieving and pushing themselves and feel happy about them, I think is a great way to stay happy. I think that's important. The second thing is relationships. I think relationships are what brings happiness. I think when my students come back, and when my own kids, my own friends and family do well, and you're able to celebrate those relationships well, I think that is happiness. I think the other things are very superficial, but when you have a kid and then she does well, the simple things, in the sense somebody grows a little taller, somebody goes a little stronger, you see a little smile on their face in the morning. I think those are things which actually give you happiness, and it's almost like a booster which actually makes you keep going. So I think for me, these things are very important. At the end of the day, things which you do when you're young, when you're old, which prick you, I think you need to remove those pricks, those thorns in life and relationships, because I think they hold you back on happiness. I think it's very important that we do these things. And for every cardiac surgeon who is aspiring to be number one, every lawyer who wants to be number one, every athlete or coach who wants to be number one, every politician who wants to be number one, I think as much as death is a surety, failure is a surety. I think we need to prepare for that. We need to figure that out. And somewhere, don't fall off the cliff when failure happens, but just drop off in a measured manner so that the fall is in your control. And you can jump off when you fall down to a platform which is higher or better or bigger, but more importantly, in a space which is more satisfying and more relaxing, because life is not about all achievements, although I tell my kids that achievement is everything. But I think at some point of time, somebody has to also tell the advice that when they achieve, it's important to follow the process and find happiness in the process, find happiness in the discipline, find happiness in the rhythm. And I think it's very important that to find that space of rhythm in the chaos, to find the space of success in the failure, to find the golden string in the dirt. I think those things are very critical. So our eyes should be on what we have and not what we don't have. Our eyes should be on figuring out the good parts of life and the blessings of life rather than what we don't have. I think this is something which I really think has been my own journey. Um, yes, I'm not really qualified to say those things, but neither am I a doctor. uh, but thank you so much. Rekhi sir called me, so I'm here. IIT Kanpur is a very prestigious institution, and I very respectedly went there because Sudha Murthy was there, Narayan Murthy was there, my friend Mohan Reddy was there, and the institute was big, so I went there. And I do believe that people who are here in IIT Kharagpur and Jadavpur University are really top stars in their own field, and I wish them all the very best. And I'm so glad and happy that Rekhi sir does these things, and he goes out of the way to actually ensure that people's, at least the people whom he knows, are pushed towards happiness, and he doesn't like the logjam of people going down. I think so happy, so happy to be here, and so glad that I'm here. Thank you.